Oh my gosh.
Hello. Oh my gosh, I can see my gals all in one place.
I poured a glass in honor.
Oh, a little glass of vino.
I got mine too.
Ready. I got none, but that's no surprise to either of you. But we're here. We're ready to have some fun. Oh my gosh. How are my gals? What's new in quarantine?
I'm in my Salem apartment. The background's blurred right now because it's not ready yet. But if we want to do this again in the future, in lieu of an episode, I will be sure to unblur and maybe a little apartment tour because it's an old ass building and it's probably haunted.
I love that.
Heck yeah. That's so exciting. There's so much going on here in my studio, you guys. Lots of time with myself. Lots of time with the cat.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of time with all of my things.
It's important.
Refamiliarize yourself with all of your things, you know?
I mean, this small square, I had to check every corner. There's some I haven't seen, you know?
Yeah.
Great times.
Yeah, you got a lot of time on your hands. I was able to clean my house. I've got a lot of stuff ready for donation. So this is a good thing.
Yes.
Good things are happening.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
And we love that.
Have we all seen the meme that's going around? It's like I can only reorganize my junk drawer so many times before I start to feel feelings. It's like I feel that.
I haven't seen that one, but it is very real to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of what's happening currently, has anyone watched Tiger King yet?
Not yet. It's on my to-watch list.
Me? Oh, you just reminded me. I need to get on that. So many people have recommended.
That's our homework.
Batshit insane. You guys are going to love it. But today I found out that this guy Joe Exotic, like the guy in the show, had a pet store in my hometown when I was a kid. And I would not be shocked to find out that I had been there, like, because my dad loved pet shops that had, like, reptiles and fish, and this is what they specialized in. I'm almost positive we went there at some point.
You gotta ask Dad.
I gotta ask Dad.
You gotta see.
Consult the papa.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, pretty spooky, if you ask me.
Definitely.
I maybe have met Joe Exotic, and I don't remember.
Honestly, I think you have. I think I get
have.
I know. I can call him your face. It's there. You've seen him in person.
His spirit, like, rubbed off on me, I think, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to say.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, so it sounds like we're having fun in quarantine, which is, yeah, that's good.
So fun.
Speaking of quarantine, we're going to share some ghost stories while we're here. You know why? Because we're the Golden Ghouls.
Alyssa.
Oh, should we do the thing?
Yeah, I like it, right?
Yes, Alyssa.
Kylie.
Emily.
And it's time to get spooky.
Woo!
Now you guys know what it looks like when we do that every week.
Oh, yeah. Apologies.
Apologies. Should I kick it off?
Absolutely.
Okay. We consulted, so anyone who came to the live on Facebook last week, wild ride, by the way, I've since learned that any sort of live streaming is complicated, and I really just don't have the patience for it. So that's why we've turned to this. And so anyone who was there for the recording last week, they'll know that I found stories from across the web, Reddit, and beyond. So did the same thing this week, just to not overcomplicate it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Spooky, and it's fun.
And they're supposed real stories. You know, it is, most of them are prefaced with saying this is a real story that has happened to me. So we wanted to make sure that we are sharing the real stuff, the good stuff.
Yes. This is from the ghost stories section of Reddit. which they say that you should only be sharing true stories there. So I want to believe that the people are sharing just the truth, just the facts, as they remember them.
Disclaimer, I know that some people are very against Reddit, but why? I personally love it. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say. Judge me, hate me, love me, leave me. I'm a fan.
Yeah, well, who could be against Reddit?
I mean, there's definitely some crazy shit on there, but like, there's also some spooky shit.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite shit.
I love the community.
Community. We love it. All right, this comes from Reddit user Afterthought Central. What a name.
Deep.
Titled, Deceased Family Members Saying One Last Goodbye. Mm-hmm. They say, now before I continue the stories I'm going to recite, might not have occurred exactly how I described them, since both of the stories I'm going to tell happened when I was pretty young. Nevertheless, here are two stories that didn't happen to me, but happened to both my grandmother and my sister. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
2006. My granddad passed away, and at the time, I would have been 4, but I can still remember him pretty well. When he passed away, it hit everyone pretty hard, and my Nan, for the first time in her life, now lived by herself. My Nan used to have a queen-size bed, which essentially had 2 bedside tables connected to it, as well as a headrest, which was big enough to hold pictures and small ornaments. On the 2 bedside tables were 2 large lamps, which turned on and off whenever you touched the lamp itself. It did not have a switch. One night, not too long after my granddad passed away, my Nan was just laying in bed when the lamp next to where my granddad would sleep lit up and then turned off. She brushed it off as possibly something leaning against the lamp, but then it happened again. So she was understandably pretty spooked. She decided to ask if it was my granddad, and the lamp turned on.
Stop.
My Nan began to cry and began to ask various questions, and she was getting a response as the lamp turned on and off. She recorded it happening, but considering it was 2006, I'm unsure what she even recorded it on. I've never seen the footage, but both my mom and Nan said that it exists somewhere. In the unlikely event that it ever gets found, I am definitely 100% posting it, so I'm going to keep an eye on this story here. As a skeptic when it comes to the paranormal, I hope that it would possibly make me a believer. Story 2. Around 2011, my gran passed away, and at the time she was not in a position, both physically or financially, to live on her own, so she lived with my dad right up until she passed away. My parents split when I was really young, so when we would go to see him, I would sleep in his room, which was pretty big enough for an extra bed for me, and my sister slept in another room. When my gran passed away, my older sister slept in Gran's room from then on. One day she opened the door to go to sleep, only to find Gran sat on the edge of the bed. I clearly remember her running into my dad's room in tears, screaming, saying that she saw my gran. I remember my dad trying to calm her down, and he went into the room himself, but saw nothing. My sister was terrified of going back in there and subsequently didn't spend weekends at my dad's for a very long time. I am both grateful but also annoyed that I have never encountered anything like this. It'd probably really shit me up, as I'm the sort of person who hates horror films. This person is absolutely English. Right? I knew that when they said Gran sat on the edge of the bed.
That's so funny.
But what?
I don't know what I would do if I saw my Nana sitting on the end of my bed, or a bed.
Either.
No. So the majority of apparitions that I've seen have not had a whole lot of detail to them, but my mom has seen people like full on, and she saw my grandmother's husband after he passed away sitting on the couch plain as day. I would lose my shit, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would too.
But who knows?
I would think I was losing my mind, but deep down I would know. Seeing a ghost.
Yeah, she's seen ghosts. And the communication with the lamps, like I know what those lamps are. You actually touch like the lamp itself. I love that. But she was getting like back and forth answers, which is something that people do in paranormal investigation. So
Yeah.
Grant took it upon herself to do that.
That
Very
reminded me
cool.
of Stranger Things with the Christmas lights.
Yeah. Yeah. It must have been a camcorder though, if I had to guess, like 06.
Yeah, and an older person, an elder.
My guess is camcorder, and it's probably somewhere on a tape that is going to give you a headache to watch because they're always like, oh, like fucking insane, giggling all over the place. But yeah, there it is, a spooky one to start things off. But you know, also a little heartwarming.
Yes, I agree. It's definitely heartwarming.
Yeah.
Just to know that, you know, the family members, they at least try to communicate with you after.
The fam's still here.
I have a long boy. You guys want to hear a long boy?
Ooh.
I'm a
Yeah.
Ooh, she's putting on spectacles?
I know. My old age,
Same.
this is what happens. You keep living. Okay. So this is from the same subreddit, the ghost stories that are allegedly true. And this is from Gleicher the Great. I think I'm botching that German pronunciation. Gleicher. Gleicher. That's as good as it's going to get from me.
It's what you're getting from us.
It's as good as it gets. All right. First, let me lubricate the throat.
You must.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I used to work nights in a haunted care home. I need to preface the story by saying that I am from a highly spiritual family. Alyssa. My mom is a spiritual healer, and while I distance myself from it due to personal reasons, I am sensitive to the spirit world, and I have faith in the Almighty, whether that is God or some other higher being. But I'm not a churchgoer or a God botherer. While some of this story may come across as a bit fanciful, I can assure you it is all true. My experiences with the paranormal have been intense and in some cases utterly terrifying. Anyway, to the story. I used to work in a care home that was built on the grounds of an old hospital for people with learning disabilities. The hospital building had been demolished and the care home had been built on the original ground. The house was in fact two homes that were built together and joined in the center by a small corridor, but they were considered separate houses. One house had a night shift worker and the other had a sleep-in. The side that had the sleep-in was the side where weird stuff happened at night. I had worked there for 3 years by the time the company had decided that sleep-ins were required to save money. I normally, if doing the night shift, worked in the non-haunted side, but because I was normally a day worker, I began doing the sleep-in. My first night of sleep-in was unpleasant to say the least, because I was working in the weird side. I was unused to the procedures in the house, but after the cleaning and meds giving was done, I turned off the lights and got a drink in the kitchen. The door that connected the kitchen, Emily took a snapshot.
I did? I did? My hands have been here.
New type. No one be scared.
Another ghost.
Oh my God.
Oh. Okay. After the cleaning and meds giving was done, I turned off the lights and got a drink in the kitchen. The door that connected the kitchen to the living room was open and I could see a bit inside. In the living room, I could see a black humanoid mass standing in the far corner. I thought this was my eyes playing tricks on me, so I turned on the living room lights. And sure enough, nothing was there, and nothing that would give the impression of a person either. I turned the lights off, and the shape was back. Not moving, but definitely there. Okay then, that was a bit weird, but I didn't get any vibes from it, so I ignored it. I went to bed. We had a sleep-in room, which was fine, but all of the lights had to be turned off in the house to save money on power. I started to drift off when I heard footfalls. Is this person English? Footfall. Footsteps.
I love it.
Outside of the door. Only one of the supported people could walk. and badly at that. So I thought it might have been her. But nope. I opened the door and no one was there. I turned on the hall lights, went back into the bedroom, and as I started to drift off, it started again. Step, step, step. I also saw a shadow from the bottom of the door where the light was. I opened the door, and again, no one was there. I went to the house next door and asked the night worker if they had been into my side. They said no. I was inclined to believe her, as she was not someone who would lie, and she was and is a very good person. Someone has a crush. I went back to bed and tried to sleep. It was about midnight at this point, and sure enough, it started again. Exasperated, I told whatever was out there to bugger off. All right, they're English.
English. Yeah. You have to be English to post on this forum or the subreddit or whatever they call it.
Requisite, yeah. I told them to bugger off, although I used more colorful language at the time. They didn't stop. Now, I do not like using my spiritual abilities. The issue is that if you do, then malevolent spirits can see you easier. And that's something we've heard. If you open the door, anything's going to come in. I have dealt with bad, evil spirits before, and the last ended very badly with someone nearly dying, which is why I distanced myself from it. It is also why I have very strong faith. I don't like talking about that incident. It was very traumatic, and I don't like reliving it, so I'll stop with that event there. Oof. However, because I was tired and annoyed, and the spirit out in the corridor was not particularly bad, just annoying, I reached and in no uncertain terms stated that if it did not go away on its own, I would make it go away.
Oh.
Threatening is, how are we? The threat I implied was banishment, and then flexed the old spiritual muscles. The noise and shadows left, and I was able to go to sleep. Yes, I was being a jerk to it, but I had worked 13 hours and was having to sleep at the property. I was not happy. This is not where things end, though, as I still saw weird and unpleasant things in the night throughout the rest of my time working at that house. Remember the shadow in the living room? Well, one night I was in the corridor entrance to the living room, just inside the living room. The lights were off in the living room, but the light from the sleep-in bedroom was on, so I could see okay. The shadow was there again. Initially, I just brushed it off, but it began moving. My skin crawled, and the hair on the back of my neck stood. This thing was bad, and I mean very bad. I got the headaches I get when things like that are around, and I felt sick. This happens to Alyssa. It moved towards me, and it moved quickly. I stepped back quietly and walked into the corridor wall. However, it stopped at the threshold and came no further. I do not know why. The thing had me cold and could have attacked. It may have been confined to the living room, but I don't know. I began to pray the Lord's Prayer, the first time I had done so since I was in school, and surrounded myself in my faith. I did not try to fight it. I am not stupid. Things like that are best left alone, and it probably just wanted me out of its space. I walked back to the bedroom, shut the door, and tried to go back to sleep. Other support workers had their own stories. One of the workers, a Moroccan guy, slept in the living room instead of the bedroom. He told me that he had the worst nightmares and that he woke up with bruises on his arms. But for whatever reason, he kept sleeping in the living room when on a sleep-in. Another saw the shadow too, and it pushed him out of the room. When I saw him in the morning, he looked really shaken up. I asked if he was okay, and he told me what happened, shaking with a cup of coffee in his hand. I told him of my own experience, but it didn't make him feel better. Yeah, I don't think that would make me feel better. I'm like, oh, so it is real. Cool. My mom worked in the house, too. She was my boss. Make of that what you will. Plot twist. She told me that she experienced the footsteps. They didn't write footfalls, by the way. I never told her about my experience, but also experienced music playing in her head. This old but really annoying tune. She tried doing what I did, making it go away. But Mom isn't as strong as I am, nor does she have the same level of faith. The music just got louder in her head, driving her mad. The footsteps and shadows in the corridor were also really bad. She pleaded with the spirit to leave her alone, that she wasn't interested in harming it, and she just wanted to go to sleep. Eventually, the thing left her be, but it left her shaken for a while after, and she struggled to sleep in the house for a long time. While this story might not be the scariest, I needed to get it off my chest. I haven't worked there for about 4 years, and I never intend on going back, although not because of the spirits. Da-na-na.
Ooh.
Wow.
That
Wow.
That's what freaks me out the most. Like, it's one thing to experience something on your own, and, there's a part of it where you're like, well, maybe I was just imagining it. But then to have, 1, 2, 3 other people confirming the exact same experience that you've had, you're like, oh, right. It's real.
Also, not the scariest. Black masses. Bruising. What?
No thanks.
That's terrifying.
Not okay.
I want to know that other story that they were talking about that was, that they couldn't even talk about. It wasn't scary to them.
Keep an eye on that story. They might add more.
I know we need to follow this user.
Mm-hmm.
Keep up. Well, I got one from Virtuous Victorian
Oh.
called The Girl in My Building.
Oh.
No. Who is she?
You're about to find out. Okay. So, to start, I live in a 3-story apartment building that was only built 3 years ago, but my town dates back all the way to the 1700s. So it's the land that's haunted, not the building itself, really. That being said, let's begin. So, like I said, my town has been around since the American Revolution and has experienced much in the way of history. I enjoy history and find much of it fascinating, to say the least, even going to such lengths as to take walks through small historic cemeteries in my town. Excuse me, I need to clear my throat. Okay. One night, I recently was gaining cabin fever due to the current situation caused by the coronavirus, and having to remain primarily indoors, so I decided to take a walk through my building. This building, while not having many floors, is very extensive in its corridors. As I was turning a corner, I see a young woman, I'd say around the age of her debutante ball. So
specific.
But then he says between 16 and 25, for those who are unfamiliar with that terminology. And she was wearing a bustle and a corset gown of rich black crepe fabric. And she turned to me and out of nowhere gave a start and began running away. I asked her what was the matter, and she stopped. She turned and said, "My father just passed away, and I'm off to attend his funeral." I looked at my pocket watch. Yes, he actually has one.
Did he go back and talk?
Maybe. And I was about to inform her it was 3 a.m. in the morning, but before I could, she was gone. I thought she must have run away, and I walked back to my apartment. When I entered my apartment, there was a note. My apartment locks automatically and can only be opened by a key, and only myself and the landlady have a key to my apartment, and she is currently off due to the virus. The note read this: "Thank you for showing interest in my sorrow. You are a kind gentleman indeed, and it was right of you to worry, as I was not quite myself at the moment of our chance meeting. Very truly yours, Hattie W. Gordon." I found it strange, but thought nothing of it, as I was getting tired. The following day, I decided to take a walk, and in walking, there was a plaque about history on Newburgh, and after reading it, I continued to walk. When I returned home, I found myself pondering on the history of my town and started to research, asking friends to look around the web with me and other outlets like the library. Anyway, a friend messaged me and gave the name of a book about my town and its history, which can be found online. I looked it up and became enthralled in the book as I went deeper in its images and text. Then suddenly I stumbled upon something which defies reason and explanation. There was a picture of a local academy which started in 1799, and in the picture was the class of 1891, and in the list of names and faces, I saw something that nearly had me soiling myself.
Oh.
W. Gordon.
Soiling his pocket watch.
I thought when he read the plaque, he was going to see something like in memory of Patty.
Yeah.
Like he was just trying to get us to the point of why he started researching history. Yeah. You know? But, yeah, true story from Virtuous Victorian with the pocket watch type stuff.
The soiled pocket watch.
That's right off.
Oh my gosh.
That pocket watch was the reason for Corona.
I mean, when is it not?
Oh, I don't know. Wow, Hattie in the hallway, leaving notes.
Hattie in the hall, sneaking into people's apartments, leaving notes, saying what's up.
I want to see the note. Did he post a picture? He needs to post a picture of the note, is what needs to happen.
I'll comment on his stream and be like, yo,
where
to see the note.
Tell me.
We need receipts.
We need receipts. Yeah, how are you going to tell that story and not post a picture of the note? I know that if you had the note, you didn't throw it away.
Right?
Exactly.
Where did Hattie get the pen and paper? I have questions, Virtuous Victorian.
So many.
Oh, wow.
Quill on her.
I got another spooky one.
Yes, please.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
This is from Reddit user Christian is Lost 72, called The Library Ghost. They say, I went to a small private college in New Mexico. The campus, which was owned by a sect of Catholic monks who still resided in private quarters on the grounds, was at one time a military hospital during World War II. Setting the scene for a haunting.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The main building had been converted to dorms, and there was a one-story labyrinth of hallways that must have been an administration building, which was now used as a huge cafeteria. It also housed an area we converted to a haunted house for Halloween every year. All in all, a unique and fascinating school. The library, named after a past starlet, stood at the top of a hill that overlooked much of the campus. It had been built in the late 60s, and you could see that in its Googie or Pop Lux-inspired curvaceous facade that loomed high over the tall entrance doors and windows. This place sounds very cool.
Mm-hmm.
When you entered on the second floor, littered with checkout kiosks reminiscent of bank tellers. The other two floors were accessed by a huge, minimalist spiral staircase that sat directly in the center of the building. It was on the first underground floor where I saw the ghost.
Oh, yeah?
This level spanned the entire length of the building and housed multimedia, practice rooms, and French literature. I spent hours poring over Jean Genet novels and plays, reading about tragic gay love, lust, and bizarre absurdist cross-dressing comedies. What a whirlwind!
Wait.
I was just coming to terms with my sexuality and would hide in the back stacks, huddled in a corner, sneaking sips of an illegal cherry Coke.
Ooh!
Allowed in the library, while reading about what men like me were like 44 years prior in a completely different country. It was not very uplifting, to say the least. One night I was back there reading The Miracle of the Rose, slowly dissolving into a puddle of even darker insecurity. as I recognized my feeling in the words this man had written. The fluorescent lights blinked once, twice, 3 times, letting me know it was time to leave. The security guard was locking up. That meant it was 10 p.m. I gathered my backpack, put the novel back. I wouldn't dare check it out for fear of someone finding it and suddenly realizing my secret, and headed out of the stacks. As I walked out from the back area, there was a row of study desks I had to pass to get to the staircase. I was shoving a pack of M&Ms into my backpack and noticed a little old lady sitting at one of the desks. She had more than a few books stacked inside the desk, and she seemed to be reading deep into one, her head hidden by the wall of the desk. I called out to her, "I think they're closing. Time to go," as I sprinted up the stairs. The security guard was waiting for me at the front door. He looked a little on edge, like he maybe has seen some shit. You see anyone else down there? Because I'm logging up, and if anyone's stuck, they'll be here until 8 a.m. He gave me a slight, tentative chuckle. Yeah, there's an old lady down there. I told her you were closing, I replied. The guard's half-smile dropped. He got serious. Are you sure? I told him I was, and he asked me to wait for him while he went down there. Odd, right? Asking me to wait for him? I was curious, so I said I would, and off he went. He was gone for about 5 minutes. When he returned, he was visibly shaken and quickly pushed me out to lock up. Where is she? I asked. What? Oh, she must have left when I went down, he attempted to justify. Wait, but I was here the whole time and no one... She must have left through the emergency exit, he retorted. But that's the basement level, I reasoned. There's no... Kid, he snapped at me, turning around after he locked the door. He looked at me, tired, run down, glazed eyes. Are these yours? I found them on a desk. Shouldn't have food in here, you know. He handed over the pack of M&Ms. I stood frozen for a second, then checked my backpack. Gone. Had they fallen out and onto a desk? He caught my surprise. He sighed softly. Every day you walk by 100 people you don't know, 100 faces you never recognize. You never think about it. They're just people. He shrugged, shaking his head, looking at the M&Ms he handed me. You ever wonder how many of those faces are really there? I just stared at him. I instantly felt fear rippling up my spine. Then he just turned and walked away. I turned to look through the pebbled glass of one of the library windows. Did I see movement? A shape? I ran all the way back to my dorm, and I never forgot what that guard asked me. I think about it all the time.
Yo!
What?
When you were saying 100 people, I was thinking of the Lady Gaga quote.
There could be 100 people in a room, and 91 of them don't believe in you. Only one. It takes only one of them to believe in you.
I'm going to start thinking about that now. How many are really there?
I saw a meme that was like Lady Gaga saying, there can't be 100 people in a room.
Oh, yeah.
Because
It's not allowed.
it's not allowed. Last time of Corona. Am I right, ladies?
She's right.
But wow, what a spooktacular.
And M&M's.
The
And
M&Ms.
listen,
Like,
they are so real looking, right? I mean, y'all seen some, haven't you? I remember Stanley ghosts. They looked real as hell.
Real as hell.
I've only seen shadows, but
Yeah.
who knows what I've really seen, just blocked out.
Oh, God, yeah. We all know that I've apparently blocked some people out of my memory, so.
Excited to get an update on that, by the way. But
Same.
first,
I've been trying to not meditate and think about it too much because I don't want to like bring anything into my house when I have to be in my house all the time.
right now.
Although it would be a good time to maybe be meditating, I'm avoiding because I don't need to scare the shit out of myself.
Yeah, not right now. Maybe later, but not right now. Later. I have a short and sweet one, and this one is comical to me. Well, a part of it is. Should I have the username? Okay, the username is the Radio King Queen. Both.
You can be both.
You can. It's 2020. Okay. One day, we were hanging out in my sister's apartment, and the dog was curled up in her basket in front of us.
English?
Wait, I'm sorry.
She looks frozen, doesn't she?
The dog not in a basket?
I think part of it, so let me check my notes. I apologize.
Bee, 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 bee. Bee, 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 bee.
Gotta read it off my screen.
Love
Sorry.
it.
There was just one blurb that I didn't have.
It happens.
Okay. Let's rewind. No! Okay. My sister has a dog with a distinctive lip curl. A lip curl that we thought looked considerably like the same lip curl our deceased grandmother had.
Oh.
And that, folks, is the line that we needed, but we were missing.
Yes.
One day, we were hanging out in my sister's apartment, and the dog was curled up in her basket in front of us. I noticed the lip curl again and jokingly asked if my sister thought our grandmother might have been reincarnated into her pet. We both laughed, but then the dog suddenly looked up. And the look on her face was downright weird. She was kind of tilting her head back and peering at us. Even my sister, who lives with the dog, said she had never made that face before. But we just laughed it off, and my sister asked in a very not serious voice, "Can you give us a sign that you're really our grandmother?" The dog looked out the window at the bush outside, and my sister said, "Imagine if a robin lands on that bush right now." Robins were our grandmother's favorite bird. She loved them, and she had everything from ceramic robin teacups to robin pattern napkins and back again. After that, we pretty much forgot about it until my sister came home from work one day to find a nest of baby robins in the bush right outside her window. The exact same bush her dog had looked straight at that day. A bush that would be somewhat strange for a robin to choose for nesting, as robins are solitary creatures, and this particular bush is right next to a bustling apartment complex. That might have just been an amusing coincidence, but to be honest, I've never been a big believer in coincidences, amusing or not. It's the grandma. Your dog's your grandma.
Your dog's your grandmother.
Oh my god.
Also,
Surprise.
when Pearl was like,
The dog had a lip curl like grandma. Yeah, what is that?
Pretty amusing, but guess what? Your dog's your grandma.
Your dog's your grandma.
sorry.
That's just facts. Your dog's your grandma.
Dog's your grandma. When you
All
hear
right,
your dog's your grandma.
a short one too.
Oh,
A short one.
wow.
Abnormally Shay Dragon.
Oh.
Yeah. She says, when I was 3, my parents moved us into a new neighborhood. The house was nice, but kind of old. The neighborhood was an old 50s tract home area, so it had a pretty varied group of people living there. As soon as we moved in, my dad started to notice weird things with me. He would hear me giggling and laughing in my room, and whenever he went in and asked what was so funny, I would tell him that the kids were being funny. He would also come in to wake me up and find me curled up in the closet. This happened over and over again, but my parents didn't think much of it because I was a pretty imaginative kid. The thing that wigged them out the most was that I flat out refused to walk out the front door. I would scream and yell and cry until one of my parents carried me in and out of the house. When you walked in the front door, to the right there was a closet, and to the left there was a low brick wall that separated the door from the living room. It was about 4 feet high and about 3 feet long, just a room divider, but I never touched it or wanted to be near it. After we had lived there for a few months, my dad started making some renovations to the house. Among them was demolishing the wall. My parents dropped my brother and I off at our grandparents' the day they were going to do it so that we wouldn't be underfoot. We didn't end up going home for a week. When my dad knocked down the wall, he called the police. Inside the brick wall, there were bones that turned out to be from children.
Stop.
The cops never did figure out who put them there. The house had been owned by a lot of different people, and many of them who had rented it out. So it's just one of the weird things that happened in my town that was never figured out.
What?
Crazy.
I'm glad
She
this
was-
person was at least playing with the kids.
I know,
As a
she's
child.
playing with the kids.
Children's bones in the walls?
In the walls, dude.
It's a weird place to put them.
Yeah.
Just
I
saying.
know. Why would you put them in your own walls?
Because I mean,
Yeah.
it's like that movie who would put
Sure, echoes.
in the basement walls. Like no one's gonna find it.
No, you're right, because you're there. Yeah, it's true.
Fear of Echoes is the one where the girl goes missing and they find her in a wall, right? With Kevin Bacon?
I think so. It's old. Well, not old, but
Older.
movie. Yeah.
I
didn't
love
make
Kevin
that movie
Bacon.
up. No. You know, we just like to say stuff. Wow, children's bones. Kids be knowing, y'all. They be knowing. They stay knowing.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Your grandma's your grandma. This is fun. I enjoyed this.
Great.
Wow, we had fun, guys.
Maybe we'll do this once a month if the people like it. If not, then we won't. But
If
I mean,
not,
the people
we'll just.
enjoy it.
I mean, I keep asking myself, how long are we going to be quarantined? But I just don't know the answer.
We just don't know. Maybe this is life now. This is us now.
This might have to be us for a little while. And you know what? That's fun. We still get to spend time together. We're still having fun, having laughs,
Yeah.
and getting spooky.
Welcome to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And if you don't like it, your grandma's a dog. Your dog's your grandma. Okay.
Thanks, your grandma.
Your dog's your grandma, okay?
Your grandmas are beautiful and lovely, and we love them.
I'm still sane at this point.
You what?
I'm surprised we're still sane at this point. Well, I may not.
I'm just
Who knows?
As the weeks progress, I think we're going to slowly lose it more and more, and the people are gonna they're gonna notice.
Yeah.
So when you guys think it's time for us to be put away, just let us know.
Let us know.
Ghouls@gmail.com. Comment below. The kids say. All right, we've lost our mind.
Yeah. I gotta go to bed.
I love
I'm
it.
I'm an hour ahead.
Well, you girls have a good evening.
Too.
I'll miss y'all already.
We'll be together soon.
I know, it's true.
Yeah, for that, everyone, stay tuned.
And until next time, stay spooky.
Woo!
Yeah.